Tonight, we got the legend in the making, Shanti Hershenson. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Talking Junk.
I'm your host, Jason Melendez.
Live now every week on Fridays.
Talking Junk.
A multitude of professionals in different aspects, different walks of life.
You have to come on and talk junk like a normal person.
Welcome to Talking Junk. The podcast comes to you live every Friday night from Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Tonight, we got a guest co-host.
Hi.
Jalia, say hi to the people.
Hi.
Well, that's because we have a special guest tonight. She's around Jalia's age, and she has written more books than most of you guys have read. So let's just bring her on. Shanti, how you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Shanti. Hi.
So how many books have you written so far?
17, and I'm currently writing my 18th.
That's a lot of books. When did you start writing?
I started seriously writing in the middle of the pandemic when I was stuck at home and I had nothing better to do. I had binge-watched anime, had watched Star Wars on repeat, and that just wasn't working anymore. I was not having any fun with that. So what I ended up doing was I started writing my first novel, Biome Lock, and I didn't stop. My first Biome Lock, which is my first novel, I already said that. Anyways, Biome Lock ended up being 800 pages and 250,000 words, which is way too long to publish. So what I ended up doing was I ended up actually splitting it into a trilogy of 3 books. Trilogy. And I wrote the 4th book later on. And honestly, ever since, I've just never stopped writing.
How long did it take you to write the first book?
The first book, for the first draft, it took around 6 months. However, it was over a year. Actually, it was 13 months for when I first started writing it to when the first book in the trilogy was published.
How long did it take for you to publish it?
It didn't take particularly long because so I self-publish, which is honestly, it's really fun. So I basically kind of act as a publisher, and I put the books, I put them through KDP, and I get them on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all that. But I also have to do my own marketing. So I'd say the publishing process, honestly, it's more research than actual work, if that makes sense.
How did your parents feel when you told them you wanted to start publishing books?
They're very proud of me at first. They were honestly surprised because this was something that none of us really saw coming. Honestly, in hindsight now, it makes a lot of sense that I would have become an author. I used to create these little storybooks and honestly bind together books. And I was always trying to write a book when I was younger. Never succeeded until I was 12. So it wasn't really a surprise in hindsight, but initially they were super surprised and they were super impressed and very, very proud.
So you could say growing up, your first love was writing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I got a question. Was there any bumps or turns during your journey of being a young writer?
A lot of them. There are so many different things that just honestly have gone both right and wrong. A really big one I can think of was actually a few days ago, in which I was running a pre-order campaign for my book that actually it released yesterday. It's called Never Dying. This is it. And I was running a pre-order campaign for it, and it was going super well. And then Amazon canceled it and refunded the pre-orders, and I could not figure out why. They never really told me why. And I had to completely start from scratch when it came to marketing, and had to do so much more work than I would have. I wish I would have had, because everything was going great, and then it went very chaotic, and I had to do so much more work. So,
what are some of the things you tell yourself when you start to get frustrated with your process?
Definitely that this is all kind of, this is to build a platform right now. If something happens, it's not going to completely end my career. If one book marketing thing goes wrong, one writing thing isn't working, it's not going to end my career. It's just, this is all leading up to when I'm an adult and then when I'll hopefully be a famous author. And I'm still young and I can make mistakes because, everyone makes mistakes.
Right. So your first book, how did you come up with the concept?
100% from the pandemic, because my first book, Biome Lock, it has a lot of themes of isolation to it. It has a lot of things that you'd find I was feeling in the middle of the pandemic. So in a way, it was just honestly all my feelings about the pandemic, but in the sci-fi dystopian setting with aliens and a bunch of teenagers.
So which book was like your favorite book of writing, and what part was the favorite, like the most amazing part of the book?
Never Dying. 100%. I loved writing this book. Honestly, this is the one book of mine that I really want to reread. I love this book. I cannot say it enough. It's my favorite. Honestly, there were so many scenes in it that were just honestly fun to write compared to some of my other books where it takes a lot of thinking to do. And for this book, I just kind of sat there and I just dumped out the words. And I had fun with it. I wrote, honestly, how I would basically want to read a book. I wrote the things that I would want to find in a book. And it was just so much fun.
Sorry, he's never usually in here. All right, so you wrote your first book. You said you had to split it into a series. How far apart did those come out?
So the first book is currently out. The second book is probably going to release sometime in the coming months. The third one, probably 2023, I think. Late 2022, early 2023. And then the fourth book, whenever after that, I can't really give an estimate for that. Currently, I have an insane backlog of novels that either need like final rounds of editing, second drafts, or like publishing.
Wow, is it tough trying to write different books at the same time?
Not quite. Usually what I do is I only focus on one book at a time until like I'm close to the end. Then I'll start writing just to make sure I know what I'm going to do next. But I'm always usually working on one book, and then once it's done, I'll go see which other books need editing. I'll never stop halfway through a book and then go write another one. However, I will often stop once a book's completed and then go write another one to clear my mind before I go back and edit it. It's a very complicated process, I know.
It sounds like a very complicated process. Now, do you have a process while you're writing the novel?
Usually, so I have a very kind of limited process. What I try to do is for each book, I try to commit to writing a certain amount of words every single day. For example, for the current book I'm working on, I'm going to try to do 3,000 words every single day, around 3,000 to 4,000. 3,500 is what I've been doing. However, I'm hoping to try to do maybe a little more, a little less. So each book I do, I just commit to writing the same amount every single day. When I'm in school, it's usually 1,000 words per day. However, when it's like during the summer, I can do 3,000 to 4,000 easily.
So were you a prolific reader when you were younger?
Sort of. I have always loved books. However, I did take much longer to complete a book. To like finish reading a book. Sometimes it would take me around 2 weeks. Others, it would take me months. So I was a pretty slow reader growing up. However, now I can finish a book in like a day or two. But yeah, I've always really loved reading, and I've always enjoyed kind of just exploring new worlds and reading stories.
So writing comes easier than the reading process for you?
I think so. I enjoy writing more than I do reading because I can kind of basically anything that I want to happen will happen because I'm the one writing it. However, in a book, of course, I have to, it's what another author is doing. And very often I will really enjoy the books. However, there are some times when I'll be like, well, I would have done this differently, or I wish this would have happened. Oh, I'm so disappointed, like stuff like that.
Do you get like that with yourself?
Sometimes I'll look back into some of my old work and I'll be like, why did you write this? This would have been so much better if you would have done this. There have been times when I've seriously thought of going back and changing it. However, I can't really do that. I could theoretically change a published book, but that would be kind of complicated considering how much my writing style has changed since.
Well, could you then just change it in the next installment? Like kind of rework it in?
I could try. That's usually what I think, what's like I do. If there's something I missed in the first book, I'll try to just make it happen in the second book. Unless it won't work, then I'll have to just, use it for another book. Or if it's something very specific to the story, I'll kind of have to either forget about it or just, yeah.
Who's your favorite writer at the moment?
Currently Lee Bardugo, who wrote Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows. I love her book so much. I love the way she writes, and the way she writes her characters is really incredible. And the backstories they all have are honestly very intense, but they're very realistic.
Who inspired you to start writing books?
I'm not sure. It's definitely a variety of different people. I have memories of when I was really young and I would just go to the bookstore and I would read the books and I would buy some books and I would see the authors or their pictures in the window for like upcoming book signing. And I would genuinely feel inspired. I don't quite know. I can't think of any authors in particular. Perhaps Ursula K. Le Guin, who's a famous sci-fi writer. Because I read her books, some of her books when I was really young. And, I am blanking on the names. So, yeah, like a variety of authors.
Is the process of making characters, like, really hard to, create their roles and stuff like that?
Sometimes. It honestly depends on the characters. There are some characters that I think are especially difficult to write in the sense that there's so much I have to think about them and there's so much I have to incorporate. There are other characters where I'll just start writing the story and I'll just add little traits to them and add how they act and they'll start feeling like real people. And that's the craziest part though, is that like the characters I write, I try to make them realistic and I try to give them all these different things that kind of add up to their personality and who they are. And in the end, they're almost like real people, except of course they're not real. They are literally words on paper.
Well, they're real to you. They're your creations.
That's true.
So far, what's your favorite character that you made so far?
Ooh, I have a ton of different characters. Kira from Biome Lock is one of my favorites. There's so much kind of going on in her mind throughout the book and throughout the scenes in which she narrates. But still, she has this very distinct personality and she has these challenges that she has to get over. Other than that, Kane Hawkins, who's one of the protagonists in Never Dying, I love him. He's my favorite. And just everything about his story and the way he acts and just who he is, I love him.
Are there any characters that connect to you as a person, expresses you?
Definitely. Griffin, who's from Biome Lock, is very much reflected of myself in a lot of ways. I think we act the same a lot and we have similar personalities and we like the same things and we have similar experiences. Because he was my first character and I wrote him from this point of isolation in the pandemic, he definitely is very kind of resonant of how I felt at that time. Then, of course, there's You Won't Know Her Name, which is my most popular book, but that doesn't really count because it's based on a true story. So I can't really say, oh, yeah, that character, I relate to them because that character is literally me. So.
Who's a character that you didn't create, but also you can relate to?
Charlie from The Perks of Being a Wallflower. It's a book and a movie. I don't know if you've seen it or read it. He is we act very similar. And so the book is told in a series of letters that he's writing to an anonymous person. And I found so much of myself in those letters and the way he acts. That is my favorite book. I read it in 7th grade. I'm starting 9th grade soon. And I can't express how much I just love that book and how much I relate to the characters.
Microphone cut out there. When you first started this during the pandemic, did you see yourself going as far as you have?
Not really, I have to admit. I thought this was going to be, when I first started, I just wanted to get a printed book, and I thought, I'm going to just publish it maybe if it's good enough, or if I even finish it, because, like, why not? Because I just really wanted a printed copy of a book that I'd written. And soon I started realizing, like, oh my goodness, I could turn this into a real thing. I could market my book. I could get cover design. I could do all this. Towards the end, I thought of some version of this. However, it wasn't nearly as cool as what I have now.
When you were younger, did you think that you would come to this point of being successful?
Not at all. I never saw this coming when I was younger. I thought that, actually, for a really long time, I thought I was going to be like a computer programmer and I wanted to make video games. And I thought, actually, I have a very vivid memory of thinking, like, maybe when I'm an adult, I could write like one maybe longish book and I could publish it and it would be kind of cool. I didn't expect this. So, yeah.
Go
ahead, babe.
That's fine.
Some authors, they have books in different, different, I don't want to say genres because they usually stick to the same field, but does your universe intersect in some way, or are they all separate entities?
So most of my books are in separate universes. However, a while ago, I've written more books since that kind of disrupt that. I was able to link all of my books to one timeline. However, given that would be very chaotic, I don't quite think it would work. But it was a thought of mine that, like, okay, this could work. And I'm going to probably try to find some version of that again. Because I could, in theory, like, kind of connect all of my books if I remove some minor, like, date stuff. Because, like, for example, this book, Never Dying, takes place in 2040. But that would intersect with Biome Lock, and then it would also intersect with, like, The God's Right Hand a little. So I have to kind of find a way to move around the timelines a little, and then I could make it all work. But, no, technically they're all in different universes.
So if you were to connect all the books, how do you think they would go?
So let me think if I can do an order of this. So first would be, first is the Kingston Origin, which is, it's not published yet. Then next would be the Chronicles of Ziel DeLaine, which is actually related to that. Then we do, I could put You Won't Know Her Name, which is my true story book, in there because it would work. Then what it would be, I'm trying to remember. It would be The God's Right Hand. Then Biome Lock. Then I could fit, I don't know where exactly to fit Never Dying. Oh wait, no, The God's Right Hand, then the Bane of Angel Fall Academy, the Bane of Angel Fall Academy, then The God's Right Hand. Then what I'd have to do would be, I'd have to do Biome Lock, but then Never Dying can't really fit in the timeline fairly. So Never Dying's in some alternate universe. Then after Biome Lock would be the Accidental Insurgent somewhere, like in the way future. And there's like a way it all fits. Like I'd like come up with some kind of in-between moments, but there's nothing that really kind of makes sense with it. Other than I do think in some crazy way, the Ziel DeLaine book, so the Kingston Origin and then the 3 Chronicles of Ziel DeLaine and Biome Lock are actually in one universe because there's little evidence and like little Easter eggs I put in the book that could suggest that one character may have been maybe pulling the strings or something along the lines of that. But there's no real way to confirm it.
So what does the young legend do in her spare time, if she has any, with all those books she's writing?
So honestly, I do a lot of normal teenager things. I hang out with my friends. I go to the movies. Of course I read, but and I like also petting my cats. I spend a lot of time just laying next to my cats because they're very cuddly. And also like I watch TV and stuff, and I hang out with my sister. So tonight actually we're going to probably, I don't know when we're gonna start because I don't know when she gets home, but we're gonna go and we're gonna watch Stranger Things. And we're gonna finish volume 2 in one night. We were
just watching that before we came on with you.
I was gonna stay up till midnight to watch it, and then I couldn't because I had to wake up early today. So I'm just gonna watch the entirety of volume 2, and then we're gonna do this thing. We're gonna predict like who's gonna die and
that's
what's gonna happen.
We're just trying to do. Wow.
And then we're gonna see who's right. I have had 2 things already spoiled for me. So, and they were both on my prediction list. So I want to see if the rest is right.
So who's your favorite character so far?
Don't spoil it.
You give me L vibes.
Oh, I love Elle. I used to look like a lot. My hair was a little shorter before, and I kind of resembled her a little. It was really cool. Jonathan's my favorite character. I like him. I didn't really like his character in season 4 because I feel like he doesn't go anywhere yet. His character just is kind of there. But I really liked him in like seasons like 1 through 3, and then a lot of people are gonna. I don't know if a lot of people are gonna get mad at me for this. But okay, I love villains, okay? Because I have to write them. So it's really interesting to see villains. So, one who's like the guy, I don't know if you've seen. Have you seen?
I guess I have.
Yeah, so I really like one. And he kind of looks like Kane from Never Dying. So there's that.
When he first started out, he was on a show called Arthur. He actually played King Arthur a while back. I haven't seen him in a while. Which brings me real quick. I have to pay the bills shortly. Since we're talking about King Arthur, grab you an Excalibur from Heaven's Pantry. It's one of the best brownie energy bars that you'll find. And if you order on Amazon today, you can use the promo code HP Street to get 20% off. If you use our code TalkJunk69, you get 10% off every order after that. Now, speaking of ordering in Amazon, does your website take them straight to your Amazon link?
I believe so, yeah.
So you have a wonderful website, by the way.
Thank you.
Let's show these people.
Heads up, chance it still says pre-order for Never Dying because I just realized that I never fixed it. But if you...
Isn't that kind of a pain that you have to keep going on there and fixing all your stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's a pain in my behind also for my website. Who do you get to do your artwork?
So I have a variety of designers do it. So the designer who did Never Dying, The God's Right Hand, and The Accidental Insurgent, that's Mibble Art. They're the best designer. I love them. Then You Won't Know Her Name is Murphy Ray, who's also amazing. And then the Ziel DeLaine series is done by a different designer, and then Biome Lock's done by a different designer too.
I got a question. So, as a writer yourself, what is the hardest part of writing a book?
Definitely plot holes. Like when, something's just not adding up with the plot and you need to untangle it, but you don't really know how. Other than that, when there's a lot going on in the book and you have to kind of tie it all together to make it all make sense, that is incredibly difficult. However, it does work and it is easy to do in some ways, but it's also really hard. It kind of depends on the book. The book I just finished, there was like everything was going on. It went from being like kind of just fun and magical to like the world's ending, everyone's gonna die in a span of like 100 pages. So
wow, that sounds like my kind of book.
It's fun. So there's like just little things like that are kind of difficult to pull off.
Do you ever find yourself having to change your process on writing characters because they may seem too similar to other characters in other novels?
Sometimes. There have been times when I've realized there are two characters from different books of mine that are super similar, and I will struggle to kind of like just add these things and make them different or change their storyline or change how they act. This was more apparent earlier on, especially right after I finished Biome Lock when I was doing Ziel DeLaine, and I just felt like there were so many scenes that were similar, and I had to really go and change them.
Do you ever use the likeness of your friends as characters?
I try not to. However, there are some times when I'll do that just for fun, because I'm always worried like someone will be like, wait, this character seems like me. Is this supposed to be me? And then if they don't like it, I'll feel really bad. So often I try to just come up with random things, but more often than not, they will resemble real people.
Do you use like characters from maybe your favorite anime as muses to make these characters in your book?
Sometimes, when I watch like TV shows and movies, I'll see characters that I'll really, really, really like, and I've had thoughts where I'm like, okay, what if this character who comes from this super fun contemporary movie, what if I threw them in like this dystopian fantasy with all of this with aliens? Often though I have to change the characters a lot, so I don't end up like just completely writing fan fiction, but sometimes.
Have you ever wrote fan fiction?
When I was younger, I wrote Beyblade fan fiction. I mean, like in like fifth grade, it was very funny. I also, in third grade, I would write like fan fiction about like book series. Now I don't like book series. Like now I don't do it. I don't do it as nearly as much anymore.
Well, now you
Just
don't
because
need to.
Yeah,
Now people are gonna write fan fiction of your stuff.
that's true. Yeah.
What would you do if you were ever approached to make a movie of one of your books? And which book do you think would make the best movie?
I would freak out first, and I would probably start crying. And yeah, but honestly, two books come to mind when I hear like film adaptation. First off, You Won't Know Her Name, which is my novel based on a true story, would actually make I think a really beautiful and probably successful movie. Other than that, Never Dying would be it would be really good as a movie. Honestly, a lot of the time as I'm writing, I'm picturing it as more of a movie, so the scenes kind of cut in the same way like movies do. I think it could make a wonderful movie.
You mentioned you binge watched Star Wars during the pandemic. Is that one of your I guess inspirations to set it in the eras that you do?
Definitely a little. I love Star Wars. I've loved Star Wars since I was probably about 6 years old. No, before then. No, because like in preschool. Okay, I can't do math. Anyways, I've loved Star Wars for so long. I wish I would film. I don't film my podcasts in my room, but I have an insane Star Wars collection. But yeah, like I love Star Wars, and very often I will like have books that are inspired by Star Wars, especially Biome Lock, which come to think of it, there's not much of it that's remotely similar to Star Wars other than there are aliens and there are some spaceships. But definitely, I don't know if I would be able to write some of my science fiction books without Star Wars.
So you just mentioned filming a podcast. Do you have your own?
Oh, I don't. I really want to start like a podcast. I had a really good idea for like one that has like writing advice and interviews like combined. Never got around to it though. Not yet, at least.
That sounds a lot like what we do here. It would go great. I could see you turning that into something lucrative, just like you've done with your book series.
Yeah, I think it would be so cool, especially because I think there are a lot of kind of younger authors that just need a lot of guidance. And I know I post a lot of writing tips on TikTok, but I think to be able to very much expand into these tips while interviewing people that can relate to that would be like so much fun.
So, as you're writing these books, have you ever gotten to a point where you would quit, but then you just proceeded to make books?
There have been moments for just not very long, like maybe like 5-10 minutes, where I've been like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is no fun. And I just have to work past them because like this is what I love to do. But it isn't easy. It's more of the publishing part as opposed to the writing part because I've always just really loved writing. But, sometimes I'll get like a bad review or something won't go as planned. And it'll be very crushing. However, I have to work past it because this is what I want to do. And I can't give up over one thing that happened when I was like 13 or 14. Because in the long run, I want to, be a famous author. And yeah.
Well, that's one thing that you can scratch off your list. I think you already are a famous author, so you just got to take the next step in that career.
Yeah.
We don't want to take too much of your time because we know you are a very, very busy woman. So why don't you tell us and the people at home where we can find you, where we can find your stuff, and anything that you would like to inspire any girls your age with.
So, first, you can find my books at shantihershenson.com. That's ShantiHershenson.com. You can also find me on Amazon, Goodreads, Barnes & Noble. Honestly, anywhere you buy books online, you'll find at least one of my books there. You can find me on Instagram, which is at Shanti Hershenson, and TikTok is at Shanti Who Writes. I post a variety of things on TikToks. I really suggest you check it out. All of it is, of course, about writing. But if you want writing tips, if you want to learn more about my books, or my story, just anything, you should check it out.
And anything that you would want to tell any aspiring authors your age, or any girl your age, in your age group, that would want to do something like this?
First off, don't let your age get in the way. Honestly, to be good in a lot of things has nothing to do with your age. You can be 12 and you can be a better writer than most adults. It's all based on practice and how much you work, and just you have to just do it if you want to do it. You can't, say, well, I'm too young, because it's really not about age. It's about kind of work ethic and whether or not, it's really what you want to do.
Well, thank you very much, Miss Shanti, for your time. We appreciate you coming on, and we can't wait to hear about your further success.
Thank you so much for having me.
The pleasure was all ours. Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tune in next week for another great guest. Shanti, we'll be right with you. I see you right there. Thank you guys for tuning in.